Get ready, Padres fans. It's time for the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network.
Tatis hit third, 2 outs. Fernando takes off. He's going to steal home without a play.
Coming up, we'll have a recap of the previous Padres game, a preview of today's starting pitching matchup, and our keys to the game. Plus, we'll hear from manager Mike Shildt. From the Padres Radio Network, here's Sam Levitt.
San Diego Padres baseball coming up on 97.3 The Fan and the Padres Radio Network. Today the Padres take on the Arizona Diamondbacks in the second game of a 3-game series. Our starting pitching matchup today for the D-backs, left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez, and for the Padres, right-hander Randy Vasquez. Hi, good everyone. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 5:10 at Chase Field in Arizona. Coming up in the next 50 minutes, we'll hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. We'll also hear from Padres infielder Hassan Kim. Some not so good news on Hassan Kim that came out in the last handful of minutes. We'll get to that coming up in just a few minutes with Tony Gwynn Jr., our keys to the game, and much, much more to come as the Padres play the penultimate game of their regular season. Let's set the table, brought to you by Fraser Farms Market. Set your table with the highest quality of natural and organic products from Fraser Farms Market, a San Diego original since 1971 with 3 locations, La Mesa, Vista, and Oceanside. Padres entered today 92 and 68, and quite frankly, today and tomorrow don't mean anything to the Padres. They clinched home field advantage in the National League wildcard round last night. The questions that remain: against who and what time the Padres play on Tuesday for Game 1, and we may not know the answer to the who question until late on Monday, with the Braves and Mets playing a doubleheader in Atlanta on Monday. More on that later. Diamondbacks are 88 and 72. They're just 9 and 11 in their last 20 games. These games mean everything to Arizona. They began the day in a virtual 3-way tie for the second wild card spot. Right now, it's the Braves, Mets, and D-backs battling for the remaining 2 wild card spots. The Padres played their last real meaningful game of the regular season last night.
How did the Padres fare in their last game? Let's take a look back with our Padres Rewind. Presented by Hamul Casino. With thrilling slots and tables and all the best rewards, Hamul Casino has all the fun you're looking for. Hamul Casino. Fun above all else.
We had a good starting pitching matchup last night. Yu Darvish against Merrill Kelly. The Padres got to Kelly in the first inning. Runners on first and third for Manny Machado.
Profar not running. Machado hits it on 1 out to Marte. Off his glove into right field. A rise is scored. Profar's on his way to third. Slides in ahead of the throw. And an RBI single by Manny Machado gives the Padres a 1-0 lead.
The Padres were a long way from done. Jackson Merrill dug in.
Here's Jackson Merrill. First and third, 1 out. He swings at the first pitch, loops it into center field. That's down and a base hit. Profar will hobble home from third. Back-to-back RBI singles by Machado and Merrill, and the Pods have a 2-0 lead.
Padres still weren't done. Xander Bogaerts was next.
0-1, reach for, grounded to shortstop. Perdomo to second, 1. Marte's turn is high, not in time. It goes into the Padre dugout. Machado will come in and score 3-0 here in the top of the first.
Jake Cronenworth then walked, put runners on first and second base for David Peralta.
3-2. Here's the pitch. Peralta swings hard and grounder through the right side and a base hit. Bogaerts rounding third on his way. RBI single David Peralta against his old team, and now 4-0 here in the top of the first.
The Padres put together a 4-run, 4-hit top of the first inning. Yu Darvish took the mound in the bottom half. Corbin Carroll hit a leadoff home run. Darvish would then walk a guy, hit a guy, a sac fly. It was 4-2. Padres still led 4-2. Going to the fourth inning, a runner on base for Luis Arraez.
0-2 pitch, swung on, hit in the air to right center field. Smith into the gap, on the run, still going. Carroll can't get there. Drops down in front of the 413 marker. And Arraez rounding second on his way to third. Slides feet first with an RBI triple. And the Padres have added on. It's 5-2.
Darvish got through 5 innings and a third. He'd allow 3 runs. Adrian Morejon got 2 outs in the 7th inning. Jason Adam would get 4 outs to finish that inning and complete the 8th. Robert Suarez came on for the bottom half of the 9th inning. Padres still leading 5-3. It was Suarez who put on the finishing touch.
It has been an injury-filled year for him as he grounds one to the right side. Cronenworth to his left has got it. The throw to first is in time. The ball game is over, and we'll see you Tuesday night at Petco Park. Padres will host a wild card series beginning on Tuesday, and they can play out the final 2 games this weekend with a lot of relaxation in mind. Final score tonight, Padres 5 and the Diamondbacks 3.
Nice win for the Padres, and like Jesse said, they will play at home on Tuesday to begin their postseason run here in 2024. As we get ready for the second game of this 3-game series, let's go out to Phoenix, Arizona.
Let's go inside the Padres broadcast booth for a deep dive on today's matchup from Tony Gwynn Jr. in our Padres game preview on the Padres Radio Network.
Well, Tony, rightfully a pretty relaxing day for the Padres here today. They will have guys go out there and play and pitch, but obviously Padres not playing for anything today or tomorrow. But we did have some news come down just in the last half hour or so. Hassan Kim, he is done for the season, including the postseason. We'll hear from Mike Schultz on that a little bit later. We'll hear from Hassan himself a little bit later. Tony, your reaction to that news for Kim, because obviously, even though he hasn't been around for the last month plus, he's a player who's been incredibly important to this team the last couple of seasons, and just really unfortunate that Kim won't be able to be a part of what the Padres aim to do in the postseason.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, obviously, Ha-Sung has had a big role on this team this season, but it's not really a surprise. I mean, the surgery part is a surprise.
Yeah.
Him not returning before, for the playoffs is not a surprise to me. Again, I go back to the Padres deciding to move Bogey over from second to short after having him move to second to begin the season. I don't think they do that unless they thought there was a chance that this could be a scenario. And so here we are. And, I think the best part about this team is, and this is a credit to the depth, is you haven't noticed it a ton with Ha-Sung being out. And
right.
The Padres have been able to keep, really playing at the level they were when he was healthy.
And, Tony, the other part of this that I guess is a silver lining, the Padres clinching home field advantage last night, making sure that today and tomorrow didn't mean anything for them. So now you pair that with the news of Kim officially being done. You have a guy, Nick Ahmed, who will play today. Presumably he'd play tomorrow, too. Kind of nice to get a veteran like Ahmed in the mix a little bit, because now this becomes a player that could very well make a postseason roster.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that is the reward for taking care of your business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they put themselves in a position where they could have 2 games where they can get some guys some playing time, as opposed to having to, play this thing all the way through the rest of the season. And so you get rewarded when you do things right, as the Padres really have all season. This is no different. They took care of business. They controlled really everything, and they were able to take care of business. And because of that, they'll be able to get a Nick Ahmed in there. They'll be able to get a Brandon Lockridge in there. And so, get some guys more, probably as important, get some of these guys who have been just grinding away over the past 3 weeks, get them off their feet a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of guys off their feet today. We'll get into the lineup a little bit later. Very different looking lineup, but a kind of different looking lineup that you love to see. Second to last day of the season, because it means the game in a good way doesn't mean anything for you. Tony, this will be the final time we'll have you on the pregame coverage here in the regular season. Next time we talk pregame, things will be ramping up. Postseason baseball in downtown San Diego. So I ask you this to sort of wrap up your pregame spots in the regular season. When you look back on this second half, what the Padres have done, really since that second game out of the All-Star break, you consider they're sitting at 92 wins. They have a home series for the wild card round. Tony, how do you sort of sum up what this team has been really all year, but I suppose more specifically in the last few months?
They have been consistently good, is what I would kind of just put together. And I think back to before the break, right? I mean, the Padres were teetering up and down between 500 above, just below. And I think it's a good kind of a lesson that when you're putting together a full season of 162, very rarely is it going to go out the chute. You're just going to play like gangbusters and be able to take that all the way through. This was a good mix of really learning one another and then really putting it all together come that second game of the All-Star, after the All-Star break. And I just constantly think about how all of the signs were there, even in the first half. You saw a lot of good things that you could hang your hat on. It was just a matter of them putting it together and being consistent. And I think from that second game, as you mentioned, of the second half, they finally started to put it together, and they've really been doing that the rest of the way.
All right, Tony, as always, appreciate the time. Enjoy the final couple of games of this regular season as the Padres get ready to play somebody on Tuesday at Petco Park. We may not know who that is until the end of Monday. So going to be an interesting few days to see what else is going on around this National League wild card race between the D-backs and the Braves and the Mets. But the good news, the Padres, they don't have to worry about a thing right now as far as their own fate for the wild card round. Tony, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you and Jesse coming up at the top of the hour. Thanks so much.
Sounds good, Sam.
All right, Tony Gwynn Jr. joining us on our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show here on the Padres Radio Network. And you heard Tony allude to surgery for Hassan Kim. Again, we'll hear from Kim coming up a little bit later. We'll hear from Mike Schultz on it when we come back as well. And we'll get you the full update on what is going on with Hassan. But in the short, and again, this is not surprising news, quite frankly. If you heard Mike Schultz on with Tony and Scraby in the afternoon yesterday, you could sort of tell it was trending this way, but officially Hassan Kim is done for the season. He will not return to the Padres here in 2024, and it does beg sort of a larger question. Have we seen the last of Hassan Kim in a Padre uniform? There are some option elements that go into next season for him, but there is the potential that Kim could be a free agent after this year. So it may be, I'm not saying for sure, it may be the last time we've seen Hassan Kim in a Padre uniform, certainly the last time we've seen him in 2024. When we come back, we hear from Mike Schultz on Kim. We hear from Mike Schultz on a number of other things as well as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:10 in Arizona, middle game of this 3-game series. More pregame after this on the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios as we get ready for first pitch coming up at 5:10. Game 2 of this 3-game series between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. We'll hear from Mike Shildt in just a moment. We'll also hear from Hassan Kim in just a moment. You're going to hear this from Mike Shildt in a few minutes as we hear from Mike what he had to say before today's game. But just to preview it for you, the news coming down from Mike earlier today that Hassan Kim will not return off the IL for the Padres this season. That includes the postseason. I'll admit to you, we're going to play what Kim had to say earlier today. I have not heard it yet, so I do understand there is some sort of surgery going on for Kim. Again, we're going to hear more on that from Hassan coming up a little bit later as well. But let's hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt on a number of different topics, including Hassan Kim.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Shildt. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
Mike, no respite. Signed up for 162. Looks like all 162 in the regular season are going to be meaningful and intense.
Yeah, we're going to take care of today, Scan. That's all we can do, man, is take care of today like we've done all year.
Does it maybe help in some way just...
All right, that was yesterday's Mike Shildt audio. That might have been my mistake there. Maybe I put in the old file. Let's see here. Let's go in the folder. Let's see what we got. Let's see if we can quickly rectify. Yeah, you know what? My fault. I put the wrong file in the folder. So that was Mike Shildt yesterday. We're going to try to, again, these games are not particularly meaningful for the Padres. So I wonder, can I figure out a way to do this quickly instead of sending us to break? No, I don't think I can. All right, so we're going to have to... oh, boy. We're going to have to reset here a little bit. We'll hear from Mike Shildt coming up in just a little bit. So we'll wait. We'll get it to you after our next segment. See what happens when the games aren't meaningful for the Padres? We're falling apart here on the pregame coverage. All right, let's tell you who's hot, who's not. We'll get into Mike Shildt and Hassan Kim a little bit later.
Which player is locked in at the dish? Who needs to kick things up another notch? This is Who's Hot, Who's Not on the Padres Radio Network.
We begin with a look at the hot category as the Padres take on the D-backs coming up at 5:10. A look at the hot category. One guy in the lineup today, David Peralta, 2 for 3 last night. He's 6 for 14 in his past 3 starts. In the not category, Donovan Solano and Jurickson Profar, 4 hits in his past 32 at-bats for Solano. Profar, 2 for 16 in his past 4 at-bats. Again, we say who's hot, who's not. These games not particularly meaningful for the Padres, but you would like to see Solano and Profar get it going a little bit as we head towards the end of the regular season. That's a look at who's hot, who's not as we get ready for Game 2 of this 3-game series. And a quick look at the Padres lineup here today because it is quite different than usual, as it should be. A lot of guys getting the day off their feet today. Jurickson Profar, the DH, leading off. Donovan Solano at first base batting second. Manny Machado at third base batting third. Xander Bogaerts at shortstop batting cleanup. Nick Ahmed at second base batting fifth. David Peralta in left field batting sixth. Kyle Higashioka doing the catching batting seventh. Brandon Lockridge in center field batting eighth, and Tyler Wade in right field batting ninth. So Fernando Tatis Jr., Jackson Merrill, Luis Arraez, all getting days off today. Very well deserved, and we'll see how many of those guys play tomorrow, who gets a day off tomorrow. Remember, the Padres don't play until Tuesday, so I'm sure a number of guys do want to get some at-bats to stay fresh. So you'll see what the lineup looks like tomorrow, but certainly it will be a little bit different, just like it is here today, certainly with Lockridge in center and Wade in right field today for the Padres. All right, we'll step aside. When we come back, we'll hear what Mike Shildt had to say about Hassan Kim. We'll get that ready for you. I'll make sure of it. We'll also have our keys to the game, and we'll also hear from Hassan Kim himself. So when we come back, we'll hear from Mike Shildt, then we'll hear from Hassan Kim, kind of do a full Kim segment, if you will, and to get you up to speed on what's going on there. Full look at the out-of-town scoreboard coming up later, our keys to the game, and much, much more to come as the Padres continue this series in Arizona. More pregame after this. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. As we continue our pregame coverage, Game 2 of this 3-game series coming up between the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. And don't worry, I kind of locked it in during the break. I mean, what am I doing here today? We throw to Mike Schultz. I've got the wrong audio queued up. We've got yesterday's audio. I realized during the break, and maybe this is a reflection of us being in sort of relaxation mode the final couple of days of the season with the Padres not playing for anything these final couple of days. I never even exported the audio that I cut from Schultz earlier today, so I don't know what's going on, but we are going to rectify the situation here in a second. We're going to hear from Mike Schultz on Hassan Kim, the update on Kim, pretty major news regarding Hassan Kim earlier today. Then we'll get into our injury report. We'll hear from Hassan himself and get all up to speed on the full scope of what Hassan Kim has been dealing with and what is next for Hassan Kim. And then we'll get back into today's game. Our keys to the game coming up a little bit later. We'll hear from Brandon Lockridge, who is back in the lineup today for the Padres playing center field. Tyler Wade and Wright. Got a lot of guys getting days off today for the Padres in the middle game of this series. So let's rewind it and let's hear from Padres manager Mike Schultz, the latest update on Hassan Kim.
Let's pull up a seat in the manager's office and hear from Padres manager Mike Schultz. Presented by Sinley Food. Spice up your culinary life.
What can you tell us about Hassan Kim? What came out of the meetings about his status?
Yeah, Kimmy's going to talk to you guys soon. I don't want to share too much of what he's going to say because it's really more of an announcement for him. But he's not going to continue to play this year with us. Really disappointing for him specifically, but for us as a crew, because he's a big part of what we've done this year. He's got a lot of respect, rightfully so, from the clubhouse, from myself. He did everything he possibly could do to try to get back. The medical staff and him were very honest about what he was dealing with and aware of what was taking place, and gave it an appropriate effort to try to get him back. And he did everything he possibly could, but with the right progressions that took place, he get to a certain point, just couldn't take that next step. So again, I'll let him announce what that looks like for his future, but unfortunately he's not going to be with us. He'll be with us physically, but he won't be with us on the field.
And just to clarify, that's through the postseason.
That's correct.
How valuable has it to have a guy like Pregame, your Gold Glover, and now sort of give you some depth at that position?
Yeah, man, it's a big sign. Like similar we did with Diaz, give us some depth in the catching spot. But now you look up and Bogey's anchoring shortstop and doing a great job of it. But God forbid something happen, we got a guy like Nick Ahmed that has experience at this level and could go out there if we needed him to and play second today and likely play short tomorrow.
That was Padres manager Mike Schultz earlier today. So you heard the official update there on Hassan Kim. Kim is done for the season, and that includes through the postseason. We'll hear from Kim in just a second. You also heard a question there about Nick Ahmed, who is in the lineup today for the Padres. Tony and I talked about him a little while ago. You would imagine now with Kim officially not coming back, there is probably a somewhat realistic chance that Ahmed would make this team potentially as a backup infielder. He's playing second base tonight. You'd imagine he'd play tomorrow as well as the Padres try to get him some at-bats, and he will make his Padres debut here tonight. So it will be interesting, and we'll talk a little bit more about Nick Ahmed coming up in our next segment, but he will play second base here tonight. And the news there from Mike Schultz that Hassan Kim is indeed done for the year, unfortunately for the Padres. And then a number of questions beyond that as far as Kim's future with the Padres. He could be a free agent this offseason. Let's hear a little bit more from Hassan Kim as we take you through the injury report.
Who's in? Who's who's out. This is the Bada Fulkerson Injury Report, presented by San Diego's Bulldog Injury Attorneys, who hope you're never in an accident. But if you are, make Bada Fulkerson the first call you make. Hit him up 24/7 at badafulkerson.com.
So let's cue this up a little bit. Shortly after Mike Schultz spoke, Hassan Kim spoke with the media at Chase Field in Arizona. Here was Kim alongside interpreter David Lee with the media after the news that Kim is done for 2024.
What went into that decision, and how frustrating is that for you at this point? What can you share with us?
시즌 그렇게 안 된다고 저희도 소식을 들었는데 어떻게 그런 결정을 내리게 되는지 얼마나 아쉬운지 그런 거에 대해서 좀 얘기해 주세요.
일단 다치고 나서 최대한 어떻게든 복귀하려고 할 수 있는 노력은 다 했는데 몸이 생각대로 안 받아줘서 어쩔 수 없이 시즌 끝나게 된 것 같고 그래서 포스트 시즌도 사실 누구보다 나가고 싶었는데 좀 많이 아쉽게 생각하고 있어요.
Yeah, I think I really tried everything up the sleeve to try to come back and help the team, but my body just wouldn't listen to my mind. So I think as of now, my season is over, and it's really frustrating and disappointing because we have a legitimate chance in the postseason, and I could have been part of it, but so it's very frustrating.
Did it surprise you that it's not responded the way you expected it to?
하지만 훈수가 기대했던 것처럼 몸이 안 따라준 게 조금 놀라웠는지요.
뭐 처음에는 그렇게 큰 부상이라고 생각을 안 했고 그래서 금방 돌아올 수 있을 거라고 생각을 했고 그래서 뭐 재활도 열심히 했고 근데 결국에는 못 돌아오게 돼서 너무 아쉬운 것 같아요.
Yeah, at first I didn't think it was a serious injury, so I thought I would be able to come back quickly, but as I said before, my body just wouldn't listen to my head, and that's how I'm here, just finishing my season.
What is the specific injury?
일단 약간 좀 찢어진 것 같고 앞쪽이 그런 것 같아요.
I think there's a small tear in the front.
What is the plan for getting that fixed? Is there surgery a possibility?
고치는 데에서 계획은 어떻게 되는 수술도 가능성이 있나요?
처음에 수술 생각이 없었는데 수술하기로 확정했고 수술하고 이제 내년 시즌을 위해서 다음 스텝을 빨리 밟아야 된다고 생각을 해서 수술을 결정했어요.
Yeah, so at first I thought that I wouldn't need surgery, but because it just didn't really listen to the way I wanted to the body, I have decided to get surgery. I think that's the most reasonable next step for me to try to just get it fixed and try to come back next season.
Do you know when that surgery will be?
언젠지 아시나요?
정확한 지금 일정이 정해진 건 아닌데 최대한 빨리 수술하려고 지금 스케줄을 계속 조정하고 있어요.
There's not a confirmed date for the surgery, but we're trying to do this as soon as possible and working out the schedule for it.
That was Hassan Kim earlier today in Arizona alongside interpreter David Lee. Sam Levitt back with you inside our San Diego studios. So you heard there Hassan Kim will get surgery on that right shoulder injury. Again, his season is done, and there was more during that media availability with Hassan Kim. When we're off the air here, we'll get some of that out on social media, kind of give you a fuller picture of what Kim had to say. Obviously, a player that is, number one, meant a lot to this team last couple of years, and he's a fan favorite. So it is really unfortunate that Hassan Kim got injured and really did it on a dive back into first base. I really don't think any of us could have predicted when he hurt himself in Colorado diving back into first base that his season would be done. But that's the scenario now with Hassan Kim. So we'll post more of that on our Twitter, on our social media, 97.3 The Fan SD on Twitter once we're off the air here. But that's really what you need to know right now. Hassan Kim done for the season, done for the postseason as well, and he will at some point get shoulder surgery, or at least a surgery on the tear, as he described in that shoulder. So Hassan Kim in 2024 at least is done with the Padres. They will continue playing without him. Let's take a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard, tell you what's going on today around the major leagues.
Let's take a trip around the Bigs and tell you about the scores you need to know in our out-of-town scoreboard. Presented by Jensen Meat, where great taste meets integrity.
We have a number of finals already today around the majors. Rays beat the Red Sox 7-2 at Fenway Park. Junior Caminero, a two-run home run in that game for Tampa Bay. Giants beat the Cardinals 6-5 in San Francisco earlier today. Nationals beat the Phillies 6-3 in D.C. James Wood, a home run in that game for the Nationals. That win for the Nats actually kind of important to the Padres. Not important necessarily, but impacts the Padres potentially. I'll tell you about that in a second. Marlins beat the Blue Jays 8-1 in Toronto earlier today. Cubs beat the Reds 3-0 in Chicago. Mike Tauchman, a bases-loaded walk-off hit in that game for the Cubs. White Sox beat the Tigers 4-0 in Detroit earlier today, so the White Sox pick up their 40th win there. Now 40-121, the Tigers clinching a playoff spot. Yesterday, Pirates beat the Yankees 9-4 in New York earlier today. Games going on right now. Astros ahead of the Guardians 4-3 in Cleveland in the fifth inning. Orioles 4, Twins nothing in the second in Minnesota. Mets and the Brewers in Milwaukee, they are scoreless in the second there. Royals and the Braves in Atlanta, scoreless in the second as well. Dodgers and the Rockies at 5:10 in Colorado. Rangers and the Angels at 6:38 in Anaheim. And finally, A's and the Mariners in Seattle at 6:40. And that is a full look at the out-of-town scoreboard on this Saturday, the final Saturday of the regular season. Now, I did mention the Phillies losing today. Here's why that actually could be impactful for the Padres, because what it means is this: the Dodgers have now clinched the best record. Despite them still not playing today, they have clinched the best record in the National League, so they've clinched the number 1 seed in the NL postseason, meaning that the winner of the Padres series against whomever that is, the D-backs, the Mets, or the Braves, the winner of that series at Petco Park coming up this week will go to L.A. to play in the NLDS. So that is something to keep an eye on. If the Padres do win the wild card series, it's now official. They would go play the Dodgers in L.A. in the National League Division Series and what would be a rematch of the 2022 NLDS. So obviously Padres got a lot of work to do before we start worrying about the Division Series, but just so you know, it's now set up where the Padres would play the Dodgers in that NLDS if they can win the wild card series at home. Let's step aside. When we come back, we'll have our keys to the game, what to watch for. We'll hear from Brandon Lockridge, who's in the lineup here today, and we'll also talk about Randy Vasquez making a start for the Padres here today as well. First pitch at 5:10 coming up in Arizona. This is the Padres Radio Network. Our EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show continues here on the Padres Radio Network. Sam Levitt with you inside our San Diego studios. First pitch coming up at 5:10 in Arizona. Game 2 of this 3-game series. Padres sending right-hander Randy Vasquez to the mound against left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez. On the mound for Arizona, a game that doesn't mean a whole lot to the Padres right now. The lineup sort of reflects that here today. Is getting a well-deserved day off, but from the Arizona side of things, remember, they began the day in a virtual tie for the second wild card spot. You have 3 teams battling for the 2 remaining wild card spots in the D-backs, Braves, and Mets. So this game and tomorrow, it means everything for Arizona. So sort of a unique situation. But the Padres, like Mike Schultz said earlier today, well, they're competitive, and they're going to play to compete, and they do want to win these games still, I'm sure. So let's give you our keys to tonight's game.
How will the Padres unlock a victory in today's game? These are the keys to the game. Presented by Honor Buick GMC Hummer in National City.
Key number 1, find the big inning. The Padres' 4-run first inning yesterday was their first time scoring that many runs in an inning since August 30th. That was a span of 22 games without a rally of 4 or more runs in a single frame. The Padres have now scored 4 or more runs in a single inning on 46 occasions this season, the second most by a Padres team. The 2001 Padres had a team record 50 innings with 4 or more runs scored. So how did the Padres win today? Do what they did yesterday. Score early and find a big inning. Padres made it 4-0 before their starting pitcher even touched the mound. Key number 2, runners in scoring position. The Padres entered last night batting just 187 with runners in scoring position in their last 10 games. Last night they were 3 for 14 with RISP, so not bad, but not super great. They didn't have a hit with a runner in scoring position after the first inning. So now in their last 11 games, the Padres are batting 191 with runners in scoring position. Put it this way, even though the lineup's pretty different today, it would be nice to see the Padres get it going with runners in scoring position today and tomorrow. Just in general, it's been slower in that department the last week and a half, 2 weeks. Key number 3, slowing down Corbin Carroll. Carroll is slugging .601 with 19 home runs in his last 63 games. Remember, he got off to a really rough start this season, but since July 13th, he's tied for 7th in home runs and 7th in slugging percentage among major league hitters. Remember, Carroll hit a leadoff home run yesterday for Arizona, so slowing down Corbin Carroll at the very top of the Arizona lineup. That's key number 3, and that's a look at our keys to today's game. Now let's tell you what to watch for in today's game.
What's the one thing Sam Levitt will be keeping his eye on in today's game? This is What to Watch For. Presented by Genesis Home Improvements, San Diego's trusted painting, roofing, and window company. Save 15% today on a new beginning for your home. Visit GenesisHomeImprovementsSD.com.
What to watch for in today's game? How about the Padres' debut of Nick Ahmed? Ahmed, a player that spent many, many years in Arizona from 2014 through 2023. Then this season, he's taken a tour around the NL West. It's like a journey to take a tour around the division. He played for the Giants for a little while. He played for the Dodgers 17 games, and now he makes his Padres debut here today. So after today, Nick Ahmed will need to just be a Colorado Rocky, and then he can say he's played for every team in the division. But in a serious way, seeing Nick Ahmed out there, how he looks, his at-bats, it is something to note, to watch in the final 2 days of the regular season, because who knows, maybe Nick Ahmed does make this postseason roster. There may be a real chance at that, and getting him some at-bats, getting him some time in the field, that could be very important, and if he produces a little bit, you'd feel pretty good about having Ahmed as maybe an option on the postseason roster. So, out of all the things that are interesting, worth keeping an eye on the next couple of days, and here tonight, watching Nick Ahmed in a Padre uniform, real veteran infielder that's had good years in the major leagues. That's certainly one of them, so that's what to watch for in today's game. Our starting pitching matchup, right-hander Randy Vasquez against left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez. Let's dive in.
Let's take a look at who's on the bump today with our starting pitching preview. Presented by Chimney Sweeps, Inc., San Diego's trusted chimney and fireplace service company for 40 years. Call Chimney Sweeps, Inc. at 1-800-CHIMNEY or book an inspection online at chimneysweepsinc.com.
On the mound for the Padres, right-hander Randy Vasquez, 25 years old, 2024 with San Diego, 4-7, a 5.18 ERA, 19 starts, 92 innings, 58 strikeouts, 28 walks. Vasquez had been pitching with AAA El Paso. Last time we saw him in the major leagues was on August 31st against the Rays. That was a rough start. He gave up 9 runs in 4 innings and a third. Major league batters are hitting .317 against Vasquez this season. That's the highest opponent batting average against any pitcher with at least 90 innings of work in the major leagues this year. Even despite that, Vasquez has had a handful of really good starts, even though he tends to get hit a little bit. Vasquez will make his 3rd start against the Diamondbacks this season. The first 2 came against them were pretty good. June 6th, 6 2/3 innings, 3 runs given up, 6 hits allowed. July 5th, he went 6 innings and a third, 2 runs allowed, 6 hits. So in fact, the 2 starts he made against Arizona so far this season, both were quality outings. We'll see how Vasquez does here today. Certainly a good opportunity for Randy Vasquez to make one more start in the major leagues this season, despite the game not meaning a whole lot to the Padres here tonight. Left-hander Eduardo Rodriguez, 31 years old, on the mound for Arizona, and this game means a whole lot to the D-backs as they fight for their playoff lives. In 2024, he's 3-4, a 5.56 ERA, 9 starts, 45 innings and a third. He struck out 44 and walked 17. Last start against the Giants, he gave up 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings. Rodriguez was on the IL most of this season with a lat injury. He made his D-backs debut after he was one of the key signings for Arizona in the offseason. Made his debut in early August. His first 3 starts were pretty good, a 3.94 ERA, but he's now posted a 6.44 in his last 6 starts, so the last 6 have not been very good. The problem for Rodriguez is everything after the first 2 innings. He has a 1 ERA in the first 2 innings of his starts this season, but his ERA jumps to 8.56 after the 2nd inning. So he's been good early, but as the outing gets going, it takes a different turn. His cutter has been an issue. Opponents hitting .350 against it this season. For context, opponents hit just .200 against his cutter in 2023. And that's a look at our starting pitching matchup today. Randy Vasquez for the Padres, Eduardo Rodriguez on the mound for Arizona. You've been listening to the EcoWater SoCal Padres pregame show on the Padres Radio Network. EcoWater SoCal, your water should be perfect. Find them online at EcoWaterSoCal.com. My apologies, we ran out of time. We won't hear from Brandon Lockridge today, but if he's in the lineup tomorrow, maybe we'll hear from Brandon tomorrow. Lockridge, Wade, Ahmed, all in the lineup today for the Padres. The good news, Padres, yeah, they want to win, but nothing happens really if they don't. For Arizona, today's game, very, very important. When we come back, Jesse and Tony have the full starting lineups, first pitch, and all the play-by-play. I'll talk to you post-game right here on the Padres Radio Network.